I am here with Kelli Lane MacDondald, who is CMO at a company called Genexa, which is the first clean medicine company. Makes medicine with the same active ingredients that you need without all the artificial ones you don't. So welcome and thank you for doing this with us, Kelli.
Thank you for having me.
Maybe it would be worthwhile for you to just give us a brief overview of your background and then perhaps an introduction to Genexa.
Yeah, of course. So I really kind of cut my teeth at various different advertising agencies up and down Madison Avenue, if you will, in New York City, and went back to school while working at one of those agencies to really dig into more of the customer experience, human-centered design, expand my my knowledge, and through that process. I landed at a brand strategy firm that really focused on putting the person at the center of the experience, and hung kind of their whole philosophy on this idea of story doing. And so the concept is you need a really powerful story or a mission, right? And you need to do that story in the world. And the best brands in the world that are probably the most famous and most impactful and are giving back most to society are the ones that follow that kind of a philosophy. And so through that work, through my previous agency where I was the managing director, we started working with Genexa to help them revitalize their brand, and really take them to the next level with the launch into stores of 40,000 different retailers like Target and Rite Aid and Walgreens and Whole Foods and many others. And so I bring a lot of that experience on obviously marketing and communication and consumer insight and how to speak with and touch and provide value to consumers every day. And what really kind of drives me every morning to wake up and excited to do this job with Genexa is just what they've built. So the founders of Genexa, David Johnson and Max Spielberg, are two dads. And about 5 years ago, they looked at what was in their children's medicine and could not believe at the artificial dyes and colors and ingredients that are literally the poisonous ingredients in substances like antifreeze. They are being used in microdoses in our medicine that we ingest to make us feel better, but they thought there had to be another way. And so they embarked on a journey to really create alternatives that are just as effective, that have the same active ingredient, which is the reason you take a medicine, right? Acetaminophen or diphenhydramine or guaifenesin is the reason you take Tylenol or Mucinex or Benadryl, but take out all of the dirty, inactive ingredients and replace them with organic, non-GMO alternatives. And our whole company is built on this philosophy of people over everything, that everybody deserves access to cleaner, better for you medicines. And we're really thankful to all of our retail partners who are helping us bring that to everybody.
Thank you for that. It's a really interesting concept. So you mentioned when you looked at when you're looking at building out Genexa, did you think about your customers differently? In other words, when you think about the customer experience of somebody who's buying over-the-counter medicine, did you take into consideration any specific touch points in that journey, or what branding or user experience components did you look at or did you think about in terms of being most critical for customer conversions and loyalty?
It's a great question. So there's really two kinds of OTC drug shoppers, right? And all of us are those two personas depending upon the situation that we're in, right? There's the emergency situation. Your child has 103-degree fever. It's 11 p.m. at night. You need to go get relief for them, right? To bring that fever down. Or you are not in a moment of crisis, and you are thinking about how to improve your health and how to be prepared and how to, clean up your medicine cabinet, if you will, or find alternative options. And, as consumers, there's been a clean revolution in all kinds of industries,
Yeah.
food and beverage and beauty. And to me, it's actually the most counterintuitive thought in the world that the medicine that we put in our body to make us feel better would be the products that are still dirty, right? Have dirty ingredients. And so as we think about those two personas, right? The kind of emergency shopping persona versus the non-crisis, but trying to prepare, there are different needs, right? If you're in an emergency situation, I'm not ordering something online and waiting 2 days for it to come. It's not useful at that point.
Right.
Whereas if I'm, January, new year, new you, right? Everybody's talking about that. I'm thinking about how to live a more stressful or life, or help with, sleep at night because of the changing of time zones. You're more in that kind of reactive mode. And because of that, we made a really conscious decision to be the only pharmaceutical company that sells omni-channel. We obviously have an in-store presence with retailers. We have .com, we have Amazon, we're selling on, through Instacart. And so there's a conscious decision that we never want to force a consumer to shop in a way that is not natural or useful to them. And therefore we had to build out a sales strategy and a marketing strategy that supported that.
It's really interesting. I'm curious. I have two follow-ups for that. So how did you come to those realizations that it needed to be a 360-degree experience? Did you do, or that it, or even to understand that those were the two primary personas that you were looking at? What did you do, audience research, or was it just?
Did.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we did. We did quite a bit back in Q1 of last year.
Yeah.
And to give my counterparts that run sales internally at Genexa credit, they started obviously having retailer conversations long before the marketing team did tons of audience research and segmentation and said this was the right decision to go have those conversations. So I think originally, like any entrepreneurial culture, there's probably a little bit of gut feeling, a lot of talking to people in aisles. Everybody on our executive team walks into retail aisles and just talks to customers. Well, before COVID, obviously. We don't do that currently. And so, it starts by understanding the customer. And I think we used research to validate that and also find additional insights to understand how to reach them and how to add value and what their need states were.
Yeah. How did you evaluate which channels to go at first? I mean, you have DTC, you have big retailers, big and small retailers. You have even Instacart you mentioned. How did you prioritize those, or even think about those when you think about omni-channel funnels? That could be a lot of stuff. So
yeah.
What was most important to you in your strategy?
So it's chicken and egg, honestly, because from my perspective, depending upon who you are as a brand, right? That's where I think you need to really start. You need to do some soul searching, figure out what is authentically you, and then use that to inform how you think about your business and where to build and where to invest time and money and effort first. But I think the egg side of that is, especially with a more entrepreneurial startup environment, you have to get your product into people's hands. So really organically, our sales team, Genexa was founded in Los Angeles. They went to the Erewhons and the Sprouts in LA and, backpack with product samples on their back. They boots on the ground, really got just asked for some time with some of the decision makers of those natural stores. But I also think, coming back to the brand point, part of what makes Genexa so different is we call ourselves the only human pharma. Like we are pharma with a face. Our founders' phone numbers are on every single product on the box. We have Founder Fridays where our two founders actually call customers. Our customer service team are people. They're not robots or offshored, right? They are part of they sit in the office with the rest of the teams. And so it was really important to us to make sure that when we think about where we're going to show up, that we do that in a way that ladders back to the brand and that humanity.
Yeah, is that a good example of story doing, for example?
Yeah, right. I mean, my team gets tired of me saying this, but I constantly say, living out our purpose is not the job of just the marketing team. Like, in order for a company to be successful, a brand to be built and have long-term loyalty and really impact change in society, every single person in the company, depending upon whether they're quality or compliance or legal or sales, they need to understand what mission you're on, and they need to shape their actions accordingly, right? And drive their actions accordingly.
Yeah, if you think about the brands that people truly love and truly covet and have an emotional connection to, and those people that have that kind of affinity, they don't talk about it in terms of a product thing or a customer service thing or a marketing thing. It's a brand thing, and
Yeah.
so that means every touch point has to be right in line with you're making a promise as a brand. Is everything else fulfilling that promise?
Right. Every single thing every interaction you have with a brand, right? Opening the package of a medicine bottle, and where you shop for that, and calling customer service, or, you know, obviously the social impact work that we do, all of that is our brand touch points. So all of those are opportunities for consumers to create a relationship, good or bad, with the brand. And so the companies that are doing it poorly are only thinking about advertising. They're talking, they're not walking, right? Versus those that are on the flip side of that understand that purpose has to be embedded into everything you do as a business.
Yeah, it's that idea in our previous conversation about authentic awareness, I think is what you meant. It's not just about, you could do a mass market campaign, but is that authentic and actually speaking to people in a way that they care about, not just driving eyeballs. That's only part of it.
Right.
Yeah, totally. So you have the authentic awareness part of things, and you have and I put the culture, storytelling, all that in there. Then you obviously have a product that's cleaner and better and healthier for people. Are there any, and those are departures from the other OTC brands out there. Is there anything else that you all are doing that is different than the other legacy brands that you're competing against? And not that those two aren't plenty, just are there anything else?
So we are standing up. We've been working on an impact strategy longer term. So we're going to have a couple of pretty significant initiatives kick off this year that are in service of driving change at a systemic level, right? So with the FDA, because I don't know if you know this, but Europe actually has the European standards, the equivalent of the FDA in Europe, and the standards that they put out are incredibly more strict than they are in the US. All of the ingredients that are on Genexa's X list, which is our growing list of ingredients we vow to never put in our products, that are in all of our competitive products, 98% of those are banned in Europe. So it's not even a question for European products. And that really starts to get you thinking, like, how come European citizens have access to, carte blanche better products than they are in the US, right? There's just it doesn't seem sensible. So Genexa is really leading the charge, and I don't want to give too much away, but we're going to be partnering with some other brands that you know and love to really try to drive that change at the systemic level in Washington, D.C. with the FDA. And we also are really looking at, I said the word access earlier before, and that starts with knowledge, right? First and foremost, people don't know that these ingredients are in their medicines. And then access to the actual product. We're standing up an initiative that will help bring education and actual product to communities that otherwise don't have access to them or have been forgotten about, or they're often overlooked, because especially with clean products, I think marketers realized a couple decades ago that they could mark those products up to be premium pricing, which Genexa does not believe in.
Oh,
We purposely, our products are more expensive to source because they are better for you products. They're not synthetically made in a lab.
hmm.
And so what we've done is kept those price points as competitive as possible. They're never more than 15% of the leading SKU. And that's really driven by this idea of people over everything. Every single
Yeah.
person deserves knowledge and access to better products.
Yeah. You think about people over everything. How do you measure that? So, data, you have this idea of people, and a lot of the things we're talking about feel qualitative,
Mhm.
super important, but qualitative. But then you have to measure that somehow. How are you measuring your impact, or how are you using data rather to determine whether you're on the right track or
There are some really incredible brand impact partners that have built out tools to help
not?
do that. And I think that's probably a more formal way to do it,
Yeah.
which is what we're working on standing up. I
Mhm.
think more informally, looking at how many we do donate quite a bit of product to different organizations that new moms that don't have health insurance. There are Baby to Baby so does a lot of really good work with new moms, and we don't shout it off of the rooftops, to be honest with you. It honestly, we feel like that's we are privileged enough to be in a position where we can give
Yeah.
that product to people that need it. And that's our duty, right? Like, we are fortunate enough to be in that position. 2 years back, we actually built a clean water well in Central America because if access to clean water is really the fundamental and starting point for good health or better health. So we've really initiated quite a few initiatives or acted out quite a few initiatives over the past few years that we can more informally measure. But to answer your question, there are tools that you when you design your brand impact strategy, you look at societal, cultural, health. There are all of these different metrics that you can measure the impact that your brand is having over time, to help move that needle. And one of our goals over the next few years is to start getting the FDA to cross out previously approved ingredients in all medicines, not just Genexa being the only one that has better ingredients. And that's a tangible measurement. If we can get
Sure.
five of those products removed, um, 5 of those ingredients removed in products across
Yeah.
the U.S., that's long term going to incrementally have an incredible impact on people's health.
Yeah. That's really interesting to actually have like really societal impact, not just health impact, which is plenty interesting. So, do you think that that's fairly disruptive? If you all are successful in what you're setting out to do, it will disrupt the OTC market, at least in the States.
Mhm.
Do you feel that disruption is a prerequisite of innovation, or do you think that you can innovate and do cool things that aren't necessarily disruptive but still effective?
The latter. I think both, right?
Ladder.
If you go back to the famous Henry Ford quote of 1920 something, when he said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said more horses.
Right.
He wasn't necessarily looking to disrupt the horse and buggy business. He was identifying an opportunity, right, to create a better product, a better experience, a need state for
Yeah.
people. And so I think disruption is one way, but I also think insight, just consumer insight, understanding where people are and um, what they need most. I love the 3M Swiffer example too. Of they went in people's houses and looked at how women, primarily homemakers, were cleaning floors, and one woman wet a paper towel and mopped up the coffee grinds on the floor. Like,
Yeah.
again, not setting out to disrupt vacuums, but trying to define
Sure.
a better option for in between the vacuums. It happens to be a Swiffer, right? So I think it happens both ways.
Uh, I love that, and I love the Swiffer example too. The spin brush is another one I think
Yeah.
that can be used as well. Um, so this has been a big year for everyone, obviously, 2020, but you went through rebranding, you released a new line of products. You've launched some campaigns, and you even have a partnership, I believe, with Nintendo. That's a big year. What's your mandate, or what do you see as your mandate as CMO for 2021?
um, to make 2020 feel like it was just a step on the journey. This year's
Agree.
really all about growth.
Yeah.
Last year, I think, was about foundation, like reinforcing foundational elements and starting to put the pieces in place for serious growth. Obviously,
Yeah.
Getting presence into 40,000 doors in the U.S. is growth, but it was really just starting to kind of build that, reinforce that foundation. And this year's all about taking us to the next level, um, across all. Ultimately, I want Genexa to be a household name, right? I want everybody to understand that they don't have to settle for less than, um, acceptable ingredients in their medicines, um, and then we can start thinking, I think, beyond just OTC even, but that I'm getting ahead of myself there.
Hey, that's okay. We're marketing people, right? We think big, and it's what we do. Um, well, I tell you, thank you so much, Kelly. I'm out of questions. This has been hugely helpful. I love what Genexa is doing. I love your passion. Clearly, that's one of the reasons why you joined, and I love the idea of really being authentic in how you're actually doing your business. And at scale. And as a company scales, I think the really great companies have figured out a way to do that. And you guys look like you're well on your way. So I just want to thank you for your time. I know we're up on our time. We're a couple minutes over, and we started a couple minutes late, but thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Robert. Always enjoy the conversation.